So I'm studying at University of East Anglia and I'm in the business school doing a business management degree. I'm currently on my placement year at Intel. The head offices are located in Swindon, but currently I'm working from home. I was attracted to UEA for a number of reasons. One of the main ones being that it was a campus uni, and when I was looking at universities in A-levels, I really wanted to go to a campus university and to live on campus in my first year. And then the attraction to the business school came from both the open day and the applicant day. So having the chance to talk to the lecturers and talk to some of the seminar leaders in the school really helped with me wanting to come to the university. I decided to do a placement year because I always knew I wanted to do some form of work experience during my time at university. When I started in first year, I wasn't sure if that was going to be summer internships or a placement year, because when I started, it was still uncertain whether or not the course was going to offer a placement year. When it was announced that we were going to be running a pilot scheme for a number of students to be able to do a placement year in their third year, I was really keen to get involved because the opportunity to work for a full year I thought was going to be much more beneficial to me than just working for 3 or 4 months in a summer internship. I wanted to get improve my personal skills in public speaking and also in team building that I'd get through a placement year. But I also wanted the chance to go into an organization and find out what roles I thought I would enjoy in the future. As part of that, it was really important for me to work out which roles I thought I wouldn't enjoy so much in the future. And having the chance to do this on a 1-year placement year is the perfect time to find out what I do and don't enjoy. I think that the placement year is already helping me and will help me throughout the rest of the year in developing my public speaking skills as well as my collaborative skills. This has been especially difficult in a working from home environment where we have to work as a team, but we can't actually see what each other are doing all of the time. I also think that as an individual who's going to be going into grad roles or any job in the future, I want to have an idea of what I'm going to enjoy going forwards. And doing the placement year and as an intern receiving exposure to such a wide variety of roles is really giving me that opportunity. So my prep work started around Christmas time and the run up to Christmas in my second year. So I started to compile a list of companies that I thought I would enjoy going to work for. So for me, this was large companies, preferably multinational, because I wanted exposure to such a wide variety of roles that I think you can only get from such a large company. So once I'd compiled a list of both top companies in the UK, but also just large companies in the UK, I started to go through and see if any of them had offered placements in the past. I did this going on their individual websites to see if they'd offered placements, but also on the Career Central website, where they can show past adverts as well as current adverts that are on there. And when I had this list, it was a case of going through, signing up to lots and lots of email alerts, so that as and when the job applications opened up, I was able to apply for them right at the start, because I found that lots of them closed much earlier than their deadline. The other thing that really helped me was that I didn't have one clear job role that I wanted to go into. I didn't know if I wanted to go into a HR role, a business management role, or a finance role, and this gave me the opportunity to apply for a slightly wider variety of roles. So for my application and interview process, I did everything virtually. Hopefully, it won't be virtual for too much longer, but I can only talk to what I had to do. For mine, I had a pre-interview telephone call where they asked some introductory questions, and that allowed them to get an idea of each candidate and decide which groups they thought they may work well in. We then had what I think is fairly standard across interviews. We had a individual assessment. For me and Intel, this was on Excel. We then had a team building exercise, and for Intel, this was a puzzle that we had to try and complete whilst not being able to see what everybody else's puzzle pieces were. And then for the final part, which was an interview. For Intel, this was a 2 interviewers to 1 interviewee. But I know of other companies where it's been 1-to-1 or group interviews. After I went through all of those processes and I had passed them per se, I then went on to a final meeting with my prospective manager, where they spoke about what roles may be available and asked which roles we thought that we would be most suited for. This was just an opinion, and I think it did change for a lot of people between that, but that basically gave us some of the options to choose what we wanted to go into. Support that I received from the business school ranged from specific interview and assessment center help, such as the interview techniques and the group work techniques, all the way to the initial application process, where we would have CV help and also help in searching for placements. For me, I found the most helpful bit was the interview support and the practice interviews, as although I'd done a large number of these for jobs in the past, I hadn't done one that was going to be as competitive as a placement year. So my role at Intern is I'm a geographical business analyst within the client computing group unit. For this, I wear 2 different hats. One part of this is that I work in the allocation and forecasting for desktop units, and this is a Excel-based role where I manipulate data and pass it out to other individuals for them to use it as they wish. The other role where I have slightly more involvement is in a supply-based role for NUCs, which are mini computers. This role gives me the opportunity to work very closely with other individuals in the team, and we look at providing allocation to lots of different clients. And in the current environment, there's incredibly tight supply. So we have to work with the customers to decide who's going to receive what allocation. In a typical day, I'd normally spend, it's about 50-50, my split between working on spreadsheets and presenting out data and working on the supply side and deciding who gets what allocation. But then I also get to spend a large amount of time working with other interns. So Intel has a really good network within the intern community. So there's about 50 of us across 3 or 4 sites. So Swindon, Maidenhead and Bath, and a few others. And because we're working virtually at the moment, we're managing to do socials, which actually incorporates everybody across all the sites, which is something that they haven't had before. Before it was specifically per site. So as part of what I do, I'm one of the social heads for the interns, and this means we get to run bi-weekly sessions with all of the interns to try and get everybody to know each other a bit before hopefully we move into the office. The other side of the intern community that I work with is the Intel Inspire group. So this is a charity and volunteering group where we go into schools and we run sessions introducing people into the world of STEM and trying to give opportunities for schools to run free sessions where the students can learn and get involved in something that they might not have access to in a normal day-to-day case. We also, through that, offer mentoring, and currently we run mentoring for some neuroatypical students, some secondary school students, and a number of university students. Probably the most useful subject that I had was the accounting and finance module that I did in my second year. The main reason for this is that we did a large amount of Excel work in that module, and actually across the board in all of the different modules that I did in my first 2 years, the Excel work was arguably the most useful case because in my job I spend a large amount of time on Excel. The other very interesting module that I did would have been the HR, and seeing in practice not necessarily how I manage people, but you can see how my managers and more senior individuals are managing the staff, and it's very interesting to see how they do directly correlate to different motivation and managerial positions that we see in the modules. I think the best advice I could give anybody would be to start early. Arguably, it should be before Christmas, even though not all of the applications are open at this stage. The earlier that you can start, and the earlier that you can start getting an idea of who you want to go and work for, you can proactively go to the organizations to find out when they're going to be opening up their applications rather than waiting for them to email you. The other thing that I found really helpful was any time that they ask you questions online before you start and you have to fill in text boxes with answers, make sure that all of those questions and answers are written down and recorded. By the time I'd finished doing my applications, I had a large folder full of different answers for different questions. And it meant that for some of the later ones, I could just cut and paste different parts from different companies to get answers. And that was especially useful in the January time because we had assessments for the first semester modules, and being able to apply for applications at the same time as revising meant that I could get a few more done there. I didn't have to prioritize one or the other too much.